Hey, how's it going? My name is James, and today we're going to be taking another shot at a video that I actually recorded a couple months ago, and I just wasn't happy with how I articulated my thoughts in it. I feel like that I didn't properly convey what I was trying to say about this series, which if you clicked on the video, you know I'm talking about the first law. And so I actually just never released it. I ended up just like deleting all the footage, everything, and never releasing it because I rambled for like 40 minutes and didn't feel like editing all of that down and trying to make it coherent. So today we're going to be talking about this series again, and I'm going to try and condense it into 3 specific problem areas that I have, I guess. But if you read the title of the video, you would know that I do genuinely... Hey, quiet on the set. Pipe down. Come here. We have guests in the studio today. Get out of here, scamp. That's Pippin. But basically, if you read the title of the video, you know that I do think that this is genuinely a great series. I think that the writing is masterful. Abercrombie's voice with his characters is just unparalleled. The dude is a very, very talented writer. Overall, I just don't think that the series worked for me. That's not to say that I won't continue reading and exploring the First Law universe. It's just not a super high priority for me. Quick disclaimer, this video will have spoilers. So if you haven't read any of these, you should probably wait to watch this video because not that I'm going to be talking about the series super in depth, but probably enough that some aspects of it might be ruined or spoiled for you if you haven't read it yet. So without further ado, I'll just talk about it, I guess. The 3 areas that I kind of wanted to break down a little bit and approach are plot, character, and themes. And just kind of starting off with the first real issue. Really, my problem with the plot of this series kind of stems from the first book on. And I actually read The Blade itself about this time last year. This is being recorded in August, so that's pretty close to the time I think that I was reading The Blade itself, and I didn't finish the series until February of this year. I kind of went and read some other stuff and then came back to it. The first book, if you have like read anything about this series at all, you probably know that the first book is widely regarded as not really having a plot, not really having a driving force for all of the characters, that like they don't necessarily have like clear goals that they're trying to accomplish. So it's very much like a book 1 in that way of Abercrombie trying to like really establish the world and then just kind of getting you into the characters, which the characters are the center point of this entire series. I mean, the reason that you really read this series, like there is a semblance of a plot, but really the hook that I think a lot of people are attracted to by the series is Abercrombie's talent with writing very distinct characters. So I actually really enjoyed The Blade itself with those presuppositions in mind of knowing that it doesn't really have much of a plot. You're kind of reading it to listen to some of Abercrombie's voice, listen to him establish these characters, and then that's pretty much it. It ends on like a real banger of a note. I mean, whenever the Bloody Nine comes out and just eviscerates everybody, I mean, that's cool. It's a really cool moment. I could not tell you why Logan ends up from where he does at the beginning of that book to the end of the book. I don't think I could tell you why Jezal ends up from the beginning of the book to the end of the book where he is, Lothar, or Glokta, or West. Half of those characters, I can't even really remember their arcs in the book. And to me, again, I kind of went into the book knowing that was going to be the case, knowing that most people say there's not really much of a plot. It's kind of just an excuse to bring the characters together, and then the plot picks up in the second book. And so I kind of forgave it for that. The character work in this book is great. I mean, as far as just establishing characters for the first time, the praise that Abercrombie gets for writing distinct character voices is very well deserved. Because, I mean, you read a page of Glokta's internal monologue and it could not be anybody else in the entire series but him. He just has such a way of crafting the way that he writes the prose for each of the characters to sound so distinct and their own. And that's really, really cool. But as far as what the characters did and why they did what they did, I could not tell you distinctly what happened or why it happened. And to me, that's a problem. That's a plot problem. But like I said, in the first book, I forgave it. Then I guess I kind of want to just head on into the second book, because really that's where like my main criticisms with the series as a whole start. I actually think that for me, and I feel like this is like the hot take, I feel like that for me, the books kind of gradually got worse as they went on. Not in quality of writing, not in prose, but just in my general misunderstanding and lack of understanding what was happening. Several times I felt like, did I miss something? Am I not reading something closely enough? Am I stupid? I'm not going into this saying that I have like the definitive First Law opinion, you know, like I totally understand why people, like, I see this on everybody's top 10 fantasy lists. Like, I understand why people, there's a little fuzz. I totally understand why people adore this series. For me, the plot was it made it really difficult to read, not understanding why people were doing what they were doing. Maybe a lot of my problem is that I just don't remember some of this, but I genuinely just feel like that, you know, whenever I think about other books that I was reading at the time, like, you know, I finished Deadhouse Gates and I could almost give you a plot, like, section by section breakdown of what happened in that book, and characters and their motivations and what they were wanting to do and what they were wanting to achieve. And that is saying a lot in a series where, like, a good 60 to 70% of the world building you don't understand, you know, you don't understand what's happening. I don't feel like that this series is more complex than Malazan. The thing I think that, like, kind of made me the most mad about the plot in these books, freaking Logan ends up back in the exact same place. Like, literally nothing changes for him in the entire series. He does not really change in the entire series. And I don't know if that's Abercrombie's point, is that people don't change. People generally just stay the same and things kind of happen to them. Hey, chill. But that was difficult for me. Like, to get to the end of Last Argument of Kings, you have some of the most epic battles in the whole series. You have some of the most climactic moments. And then to get to the end of it and still just not have that, like, that really satisfying payoff of understanding what happened, feeling like there's resolution with the characters. And resolution doesn't have to mean that the story is just over for them, and that it's all tied up completely with a bow. I'm okay with some stuff being left unsaid or left, you know, ambiguous. But to get to the point where you just have that resolution that, at least for this, you know, self-contained trilogy, the story is resolved and over, I just didn't feel that way at all. Again, all I have read in this entire universe is just this trilogy. And so I don't know if it gets expanded on, and, you know, I know that there's short stories and there's other books that exist, other series that exist inside the world, and I don't know if those expand on these characters and expand on these stories. I think that the next series involves their children or involves the next generation, which is confusing to me because I don't feel like that there was resolution with the first generation. So why are we skipping forward to their kids? So that's my last little side rant about the plot, is I don't feel like that the series ended in a satisfying way. This trilogy, I don't feel like it ended in a satisfying way. Next, characters. This is probably like the weakest argument for me, because the characters are the best part of this whole series. Like, this whole series, the thing that, like, kept me from DNFing, honestly. Like, if the characters were not just as strong, like, and well voiced and well written, I probably wouldn't have finished this series. Like, it was that level of not understanding what was happening. I think that the characters are, just like I said, beautifully written, but I didn't like any of them. So, case in point, my favorite character in The Blade itself was West, because West, for the entire book, was kind of the exception to that rule for me a little bit. I mean, he might not have been as interesting of a voice to read as Glokta. He might not have as interesting of a past as Logan. Lothar was super annoying to read. Just seemed like a whiny, complaining kid. West just seemed like the kind of character that I'm like, okay, this is the character in this series that I can root for and that I can get behind, and I feel like he has the best intentions for people in mind. He's kind of just, he complains about his job a lot, but like, who doesn't? And so that was kind of the character that I was latching on to, throughout the whole series, as being like, even if he's not the most interesting character, he's a character that I can root for. And then he beats the crap out of Artie. And it's like, why? Why did he have to do that? I get that his flaw or whatever is his temper or his anger, but it's just like, I feel like that sometimes the characters in these books, and maybe that's the point of them, and maybe I'm just soft, but I feel like that they're just unnecessarily mean sometimes, like just unnecessarily hateful. Like the whole reason that this world exists is for people to just be hateful to each other, which I feel like that sounds again, super soft of me. I'm not against dark storylines, and I'm not against morally gray decisions. I just want to feel some kind of justification for it, other than, everybody else in this series is a jerk, and so we're just going to have the one guy who kind of seems like not as bad of a jerk, just physically abuse his sister and then leave. Like, that really just, I was grinding my teeth reading through that. It shocked me. It was definitely shocking. I did not expect it, but like, I'm not going to praise a book on shock value alone. And I guess kind of tying like the reason that I don't like a lot of the characters into just the themes of the book as a whole. Maybe I just don't like reading grim, dark fantasy, because I don't know if that's a genre staple as a whole. I haven't read really, this is kind of the first foray into grimdark that I've ever taken. And just the themes of just these morally gray decisions, but the backstabbing and the, just the general I don't know how to put it. I feel really childish trying to explain this. But I feel like that the motivations that people had were just completely and totally like only self-motivated. And whenever they were motivated by somebody else benefiting or gaining, it was a mutual gain. There was like, I don't remember any selfless acts or, like I said, my memory's not perfect, so I'm not saying that there weren't any. None of them come to mind because I was so distracted with not understanding the plot, not liking any of the characters, and then the themes of the series just kind of being, I'm struggling with this review again. I thought that I had formulated my thoughts a little better this time, but I think that the reason that The Blade itself and the First Law trilogy as a whole didn't work for me is because I can't wrap my head around it. It is like the best written, most eloquent prose, maybe not eloquent, but just most identifiable prose for characters. It has all of the building blocks to be something that I would just absolutely love to recommend. And I kind of struggle to recommend it to people. It is good. Like, it is a well-written, well-put-together, good trilogy. I just don't think it was for me. And I think that that's okay. I mean, I don't have to like everything that is in the mainstream, and I'm sure that I have books that I just absolutely adore that a lot of people don't. And that's totally fine. I mean, that's what is fun about this community, right? Is finding counter arguments or counter opinions and talking about them and fleshing them out. And so I would love to hear why you think I'm absolutely wrong about all of my opinions down in the comments, and talk to me about what I misunderstood. I mean, I would absolutely love to have my mind changed on this series, or maybe it would warrant a reread in the future. If you have opinions on this series that could help maybe kind of restructure my brain about it and could help me figure out what it is exactly that I missed, I would love to hear that, because like I said, I do plan on reading more Joe Abercrombie in the future, and maybe that will help. Maybe that's the solution, is that I need to read more into the series. But I'm excited to hear what you have to say. So if you haven't already, be sure to like and subscribe and comment down below if you have read the series. If you watched this video and you haven't read the series, I hope I didn't just ruin it for you. Let me know what you think of the First Law, and motivate me to move Abercrombie back up my TBR, because right now I just don't see myself reading more in the foreseeable future. Eventually, perhaps. But yeah, all that rambling aside, I think that's all I got. So I'll catch you in the next one.